Fort George National Historic Site is a historic military structure at Niagara-on-the-Lake, Ontario, that was the scene of several battles during the War of 1812. The fort consists of earthworks and palisades, along with internal structures, including officers' quarters, blockhouses to accommodate other ranks and the families, and a stone powder magazine, which is the only original building on the site. Opposite the fort, across the Niagara River, stands Fort Niagara in New York, which can be seen from Fort George's ramparts. Fort George was built by the British Army after Jay's Treaty required Britain to withdraw from Fort Niagara. The new fort was completed in 1802 and became the headquarters for the British Army and the local militia. Fort George was captured by U.S. forces in May 1813 at the Battle of Fort George. The American Army used the fort as a base to invade Upper Canada, but were repelled at the battles of Stony Creek and Beaver Dams. The fort was retaken by the British Army in December of that year after U.S. forces abandoned the British side of the river. The fortification was used by the Canadian Army as a military training base during the First World War and through the Second World War under the name Camp Niagara. The grounds were eventually abandoned by the military in 1965. The site is now a National Historic Site of Canada, maintained by Parks Canada. The fort is open to visitors from April to October. The staff maintains the image of the fort as it was during the early 19th century, with period costumes, exhibits, and displays of that time. They train summer students in the infantry tactics and firing drills of the 41st Regiment from the War of 1812. They also have the 41st Fife and Drum Corps, which provides an example of how the fife and drums were used. Every year, reenactors from both the United States and Canada meet on and near the grounds of the fort and reenact the battle that took place nearly 200 years ago. This has taken place since 1984 and has grown from a small group of 300 troops to over 1,800. The grounds surrounding the fort and the commons adjacent to the fort provided the site for the 8th World Scout Jamboree held in August 1955. Fort George National Historic Site is one of a handful of sites managed under the administrative name Niagara National Historic Sites by Parks Canada. Within the National Park System, the television show The Girly Ghost Hunters paid a visit to the fort to investigate any paranormal activity that was allegedly documented there. The episode was shown as the second of 13 episodes of the show in 2005. Interpretation and reenactment. The interpreters and infantry members are dressed in period dress and uniforms. Infantry soldiers, officers and fifes and drums are dressed representing the 41st Regiment of Foot. The reproduction British 8-inch mortars are a unique pattern found nowhere else. RMW Senior, Curator at Parks Canada. Affiliations. The museum is affiliated with P. Canadian Museums Association, P. Canadian Heritage Information Network, and Virtual Museum of Canada, and also the Upper Canada Heritage Centre. It has been a historical site since the mid-1900s.